Okay, I want you to close your eyes for just a second. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. If you're driving, please keep them open.
Yes, please do.
But if you're safe, just picture this. It's a sound you probably hear, what, twice a day, every single day. That heavy click, little whir, and then that settling room of an engine waking up.
It really is the soundtrack of the modern commute, isn't it?
It is. So ubiquitous. That's just background noise. But here's my question. In those like 3 or 4 seconds, where's your brain?
Hmm.
Are you already mentally at your first meeting, planning dinner? Or are you actually there inside the machine?
Well, if we're being honest, 99% of us are already at the office. The seatbelt isn't even clicked yet.
Exactly. And that is why today's deep dive is a little bit different. We're not breaking down some geopolitical shift or the future of AI.
Yeah.
We are looking at a document that, on the surface looks like a really dry instruction manual. It's titled Smart Vehicle Startup Tips for Safe Daily Driving.
And I know what you're probably thinking. You're thinking, I know how to start my car. I've been doing it since I was 16.
Right. That was my first reaction, too. I thought, do we really need a deep dive on how to turn a key? But then I actually read the source material, and I realized I've been doing it wrong. I mean, not mechanically wrong, maybe, but philosophically wrong for my entire adult life.
Philosophically wrong. I love that. But you know what?
Yeah.
It's accurate. The source frames this thing we do without thinking in a way that's actually quite profound.
It really does.
It argues that the way you start your car dictates the safety and the entire quality of the trip.
So our mission today is to take that mindless reflex, hop in, turn key, go, and maybe transform it into a deliberate ritual. We want to unpack why this source claims this is your first and best opportunity to be a safe driver.
The core argument is just fascinating. The source says that the startup is, and I'm quoting it here, your first opportunity to make a safe, focused, and deliberate transition from stillness to motion.
Transition from stillness to motion. That sounds more like something from a yoga class or maybe a physics lecture, not a driving tip.
It does, but think about the physics of it for a second. You're sitting in, 2 tons of steel, glass, and flammable liquid. It's dead still. Inert.
Okay.
And you're about to introduce it into this dynamic environment where everyone else is moving at 60 or 70 miles an hour.
It's a massive state change.
It is. And the source argues you can't make that state change safely if your brain is still on autopilot. If you rush the start, you're basically entering a high-stakes environment with a low-stakes mindset.
The source warns specifically about rushing this step, and I feel like personally attacked by that.
Hey, I think we all do.
I am definitely that person who slides into the seat, buckling the belt, turning the key, all in one, chaotic motion because I'm 5 minutes late.
And that is exactly the behavior the source is trying to correct. It talks about this startup routine, not just as a mechanical thing, but as a kind of psychological firewall.
A firewall.
Yeah, a well-practiced routine prevents problems before they even happen because it forces your brain to slow down.
So by having a routine, we're forcing our brains to catch up to what our bodies are doing.
Exactly. You're shifting from, say, passenger mode or rushed pedestrian mode into driver mode. The source says this whole routine supports confident defensive driving.
That makes sense.
And think about it. Can you really be a defensive driver if your very first action is an aggressive rush to get the engine running?
That's a great point. If you start frantic, you drive frantic.
Precisely. You are setting a baseline of chaos.
Okay, I'm sold on the philosophy. I want the zen of the startup. So let's get into the actual manual. The source breaks this down into a really specific sequence, almost like a pre-flight checklist for a pilot. And it starts on the floor.
The feet, specifically the brake pedal.
Now, this seems obvious if you have a push button start right, you have to push the brake. But the guide is for everyone, key turners included. Step 1, put your foot on the brake.
Right. And notice it doesn't say hover your foot near the brake. It says put your foot on the brake. Apply some pressure.
Why is that the absolute first thing, before we even touch the key?
The source calls it an added precaution. It's a fail-safe. The logic is so simple, but it's terrifying if you ignore it. You do this just in case the vehicle happens to be in gear.
Oh, right. I haven't driven a manual in years, but if you leave a manual in gear and turn that key...
The car lurches.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not some gentle nudge. The starter motor has a surprising amount of torque. It will launch the car.
Even in an automatic, though.
Even in an automatic. I mean, mechanical linkages can fail. A parking pole could snap.
Mm-hmm.
Or, and this is more common, maybe you didn't quite get it all the way into park last time you drove.
Ah.
If that car is in gear, or there is some kind of fault, and you turn that ignition, you get instant, unintended motion.
And if you're in a garage, that means you're going right through the drywall.
Or you're parallel parked, and you crunch into the bumper of the car in front of you. By planting your foot on the brake first, you are physically anchoring the vehicle. Okay. You're establishing dominance over the machine. You're saying, I decide when we move, not you.
I like that. Anchoring the vehicle. It's like putting a leash on a big dog before you open the door. You're containing the potential energy.
That is a perfect analogy. You're managing the risk before the risk even exists.
Okay, now let's talk about the other foot, the right foot. The source has a very strict rule here, and it uses capital letters.
It does. It says very clearly, do not put your foot on the accelerator or gas pedal.
The all caps, not. This feels like it goes against some old school advice. I remember my grandfather teaching me to drive, and he'd always pump the gas a few times before turning the key. To get the juices flowing, he'd say.
And for his truck, that was 100% correct. That's the generational gap you see in driving habits.
So what changed?
Technology. Your grandfather's truck had a carburetor. It was a purely mechanical thing that mixed fuel and air. On a cold morning, you had to pump the pedal to physically squirt raw gasoline into the engine to get it to catch.
So it was a manual override, basically.
Exactly. But modern cars, pretty much anything made in the last 30 years, use electronic fuel injection, EFI.
Okay, so explain that to me like I'm 5.
Okay, so instead of a mechanical squirter, there's a computer, the ECU. When you turn the key, that computer wakes up. It checks the air temp, the engine temp, air pressure, everything. It does a quick, complex math equation to figure out the perfect amount of fuel to spray for a clean start.
So it's doing the math for you.
It is. But here's the catch. The computer assumes the throttle is closed. It assumes your foot is off the pedal. If you step on the gas, you are sending a signal to the computer that the throttle is open.
So you're confusing the car's brain.
You're giving it bad data. You're telling it one thing, but the sensors are reading another. Best case. The car starts rough because the computer has to frantically recalibrate.
And worst case.
In some older fuel-injected systems, you can actually flood the engine and it won't start at all.
So the help I thought I was giving the car is really just interference.
Exactly. The source emphasizes later that we need to let the engine catch on its own. That's a key phrase. Modern engineering is so sophisticated. The car knows how to start itself better than you do.
So the footwork is simple. Left foot is an anchor on the brake. Right foot stays completely away from the gas. We are safe and we are neutral.
Correct. You are setting the stage for the machine to do its job properly.
Okay, feet are set. Now we move to the hands. We're putting the key in the ignition. And this is where the source introduces a concept that, honestly, it completely changed my perspective. I call it the dashboard pause.
This is, without a doubt, the core insight of the entire document. If you take away only one thing from this deep dive, it should be this.
Okay, so walk us through it. We put the key in, we turn it, but not all the way to start, right?
Right. You turn the ignition to the on position. Sometimes it's labeled run. It's the click right before the engine actually cranks. The source says to take a brief couple of seconds right there.
And what are we doing in these 2 seconds? Because usually I'm just annoyed that ECI hasn't kicked in yet.
You are performing a system diagnostics check. When you turn that key to on, look at your dashboard. What happens?
Everything lights up. The battery light, oil light, check engine. It looks like a Christmas tree.
Right. And most people just ignore that. They think it's just the car saying hello or doing a little light show. But the source points out something incredibly important. You're checking to make sure the lights themselves are working.
You know, there was a sentence in the source that just stopped me in my tracks. It said, you don't want a critical warning light not to indicate a problem because the light is not working.
It's the check the checker logic. Think about it. What's the most dangerous thing that can happen to your engine? Maybe the oil pump fails.
Right.
If that happens, oil pressure drops to 0. The engine starts destroying itself in seconds. How does the car tell you this is happening?
With the little red oil can light.
Correct. But what if the tiny light bulb behind that red oil can is burnt out?
Then no light comes on.
Exactly. The car is screaming for help, but the messenger is dead.
Yeah.
So you just keep driving, thinking everything's fine, until bang, your engine seizes up on the highway.
That is actually terrifying.
And that's why this pause is non-negotiable. When you turn the key to on, the car lights up every single warning light to prove to you that its reporting system is functional. If you just crank the engine right away, you miss that test. You have no idea if your safety systems can actually warn you.
It's such a simple thing. It takes, what, 2 seconds?
Maybe less. The source says once you're familiar with the layout, you can check it all with just a quick glance. You're just looking for the presence of light.
It's funny because I always rush that part. Seeing all those lights makes me anxious. I want them to go off so I can feel safe.
But the source is saying, no, embrace the lights, confirm the lights are there. You need to know that if a light is not on later, it's because the system is healthy, not because the dashboard is broken. You're validating the silence.
That's a massive aha moment for me, checking the checker. But that's not the only thing we're looking for, is it? The source mentions a couple other things to scan.
Yeah, while the dashboard is lit up, it advises checking two other things: the door indicators and the fuel gauge.
Door indicator makes sense, but the fuel gauge one. Glance at the fuel gauge to make sure you have enough for the trip. This seems so obvious, but how many times have you started driving, gotten on the freeway, and then the gas light comes on?
Happens to everyone.
Hmm.
And it goes back to that transition philosophy. If you check the fuel before you start the engine, you are still in the planning phase. You're static. You can decide, okay, I need to leave 5 minutes early to get gas.
Whereas if you notice it 10 minutes into the drive,
Now it's an emergency. Now you have a problem to solve while moving at 60 miles an hour. You're turning a routine task into a stressor, doing math in your head instead of watching the road.
so this dashboard pause is really a situational awareness scan. Bulbs, check. Doors, check. Fuel, check. We're gathering intelligence before committing to the mission.
Intelligence gathering is a great way to put it. You wouldn't launch a rocket without checking the telemetry. A car isn't a rocket, but the principle of verify before commit is the same.
Okay, so brake on, gas off, key in on. We've done the pause, scan the dash. The lights are good, we have gas, doors are shut. Now, and only now, can we actually start the car.
Now for the mechanics of ignition.
The source gives some specific advice here. It says, do not hold key for longer than necessary.
This is about mechanical empathy. When you turn that key to start, you're engaging an electric motor. It shoots a little gear out that meshes with a massive gear on your engine called the flywheel.
Metal on metal.
It is. And its only job is to spin the engine until combustion takes over. Once the engine catches, once it's running on its own, it instantly speeds up way faster than the starter motor.
And if I'm still holding the key,
You are grinding that little starter gear against a flywheel that's now spinning at like 1,000 RPM. Scree! We've all heard that awful sound.
it makes my teeth hurt just thinking about it.
It should make your wallet hurt too. You're shearing metal. So the source is reminding us. Release once engine catches. Trust the machine. As soon as you hear it roar, let go. The starter's job is done.
It really sounds like we just need to trust the car a little bit more.
We do. And that circles right back to the gas pedal. The source reiterates. Let the engine catch on its own without pressing the accelerator or gas pedal.
It really hammers that point home.
It's about autonomy. The car's computer is monitoring the RPMs. As soon as it senses the engine has caught, it adjusts the idle speed instantly. If you're messing with the gas, you're just fighting the computer's attempt to stabilize itself.
So it's almost like the source is saying, do your job, which is safety and awareness, and let the car do its job, which is combustion.
Exactly. Know your role. You're the pilot. The car is the heavy lifter. When you try to do the car's job, you create friction.
That's a profound distinction. Safety comes from respecting the engineering.
It really does.
So let's synthesize this. We've broken it down into these micro steps feet. Pause, scan, key. But in real life, this whole thing takes, what, 5 seconds? 10 maybe?
Think if you practice, 10 seconds max. It's not about adding time. It's about adding density of attention.
Let's review the whole sequence one more time just to lock it in.
Okay, step 1. Transition your mindset. You're entering the vehicle, leaving stillness. Step 2, brake pedal. Firmly pressed, you are anchored.
Right.
Step 3, accelerator. Touched by nothing, you are neutral. Step 4, ignition to on.
Step 5, the pause.
The pause. Scan the bulbs. Are they lit? Check doors. Check fuel. Step 6, ignition to start. The engine catches. Release immediately.
And step 7, you are now in motion.
That's it.
When you lay it out like that, it feels so professional, like a standard operating procedure.
And it should. A car is a complex, heavy, dangerous machine. We treat it like a toy or a couch sometimes, but it's a machine. The source concludes that by following this routine, you reinforce safe habits that support smoother, more secure driving every time.
Smoother, more secure driving. That's the real payoff, isn't it? It's not just about not crashing in the driveway. It's the mindset you carry with you.
If you start calm, you drive calm. If you start aware, you drive aware. The source says this is about spotting early warning signs and reducing risk. That mindset doesn't just stop when you back out. It carries over to how you merge, how you brake, how you react.
It's fascinating. A document about starting a car is really about starting yourself.
That's why I love this source. It takes the mechanical and makes it behavioral. It reminds us that we are part of the system. The car isn't just a box that moves us. We are the operator.
It really challenges that autopilot mode we all fall into. I know for a fact that tomorrow morning I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to freeze for a second. I'm going to look at that dashboard and actually see it for the first time in months.
You'll check those bulbs.
I will check the bulbs, I
Yeah,
promise. And I'll probably feel a little smug about it too, like, I'm a professional operator of this vehicle.
as you should. It's a professional responsibility.
You know, we promised a deep dive, and I feel like we've really found the depth in what seems like the shallow end of the pool.
It's always in the details, isn't it? Safety is built in the thousands of little invisible decisions we make or fail to make before we even leave the driveway.
As we wrap this up, I want to leave you with one last thought. We've spent this time talking about how a 10-second pause can change your whole drive. The source calls it the transition from stillness to motion.
Such a powerful phrase.
It is, and it makes me wonder, if the quality of the startup determines the safety of the journey, where else does that apply?
Oh, absolutely. It applies everywhere.
We rush into meetings. We rush into difficult conversations. We rush into new projects at work. We turn the key and stomp on the gas before we've even checked if our own warning lights are working.
That's a sobering thought. We rarely check the bulbs of our own readiness before we start moving.
Exactly. So the next time you're about to start anything, not just your car, ask yourself, have I hit the brake? Have I checked the gauges? Am I actually ready to move from stillness to motion? Or am I just hoping the engine catches?
Check your checkers.
Check your checkers! Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. Drive safe out there.
Please like, subscribe, and get notified.